Hello and welcome back. It's very good to see you here. I'm very grateful that you came, and I enjoy the fact that you want to come back and learn more about your spiritual journey. As you've been learning over the last two videos, spiritual awakening is more about shadow work. And it sounds quite scary, and a lot of people are put off by the sound of shadow work, but it is about finding in ourselves the things where we haven't been as spiritual as we might have been in the past. And of course we weren't. We were learning on the journey. Now, if you haven't seen video 1 and you haven't seen video 2, then I would suggest that you go back there and watch those first. But hey, if you're here and you're enjoying it, then do stay. You can go back and watch them later. In this third video, we're going to talk about expectations. So, you've moved on quite a lot now if you've been following my two videos before. You've now learned to forgive yourself for places in the past or times in the past where you didn't behave appropriately or how you should have done. More importantly, you didn't behave how you would behave now. Instead of that knee-jerk reaction, that firing back at somebody because that's what's been built inside you for all your life, so that you respond in a way that is defensive and always was and always will be. You've learned to stop, think about the other person's point of view, think about the other person's perspective. I mean, how many times in the past have you had a huge row with somebody, and it turns out actually when you start to talk you realise that you were both saying the same thing, but you were just saying it from a different point of view. So you actually agreed with each other. So if you'd been in that situation, you'd actually stopped and thought for a moment, that row would never have happened, and those vibrations wouldn't have been lowered. You need to keep your vibrations up because you want to be aware of where you are and what you're doing all the time, what you're thinking and what you're saying. And on video 2, we discussed how you forgive others, which isn't always easy. Somebody's done something terrible to you. However, as I remember what I said in that video, you don't need, I apologise and you accept their apology. Far from it. This has got nothing to do with them. This is about you. This is about your spiritual journey. This is about your spiritual awakening, and more importantly, is about your shadow work. So it doesn't matter whether they're happy to apologise to you or not. The point is that you're going to forgive them regardless. You're going to forgive them regardless of whatever has happened in the past. You are just happy to forgive them because you don't want to carry that anger and that upset through your life with you. You've got to let it go. You've got to let things go. And I'm going to say to you now, that old expression, go with the flow, is more important to me now than it's ever been in my life. I mean, let's talk for a moment about, now in video 3, part 3 of our shadow work is to overcome our expectations. I mean, what does that mean, overcome our expectations? Well, it's our expectations of ourselves, it's our expectations of others, it's our expectations of being able to control things. And I think the most important thing that shadow work has taught me, and hopefully the most important thing it would teach you, is that you can't expect people to behave the way necessarily you want them to. You can't control people to be or to do what you want them to do. So if you're expecting somebody to do something and they don't, that expectation is let down and you suffer disappointment. And suffering disappointment is lowering your vibrations. Because if you had an expectation, if you don't have that expectation, then there is no disappointment. It's letting go of your ego. It's letting go of your trying to control things. It's you can control your life, you can control what you do. You'll never be able to control everybody else. And the more you try, the more disappointed you'll become. You have to go with the flow. Going down the river, fall into the river. Remember what I always said, just go with the flow and get out when the opportunity presents itself. Don't try and swim against the current, don't try and swim against the tide. It's just hard work and it's not going to achieve anything. It's just going to make you tired and ratty. So, letting go of expectations is the next stage of shadow work. letting go of expectations of other people, letting go of expectations of yourself, letting go of expectations of the universe. The biggest problem I had on my journey was trying to control time, wondering when things were going to happen. We manifest, we work hard to manifest, and then we get cross because it hasn't happened yet. And we were expecting it this. We wanted something to happen. We wanted it to happen at a certain time, but it didn't happen. And then we get, not cross, but we get disappointed that it didn't happen. When's it going to happen? Well, if you carry on like that, it never will happen. That's the point. You have to let go. You have to allow divine time to take its place. And once you lay back and you relax and you allow those things to happen and you release the need to control, then suddenly things really do start to fall into place. However, and there is a big however, it's not easy to let go. You have to practice. You have to make sure that you're in a mindset when you find yourself wondering why something hasn't happened, or wondering why somebody hasn't done something, or wondering why you yourself have let yourself down. Maybe you promised to do something and you didn't do it. That's expectations. Stop worrying about expectations. I mean, you can't go through your life and never do anything or not expect people to do things. People will always do things for you, and you can work collaboratively in a team, and that's okay, that's fine, and it does work. But you must remember that the disappointment is the problem. Once it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong. You can make the best of it. You can, the expression, don't cry over spilt milk. Milk spilt onto the floor. You've got to mop it up. It's a bit of a pain, but it's got to be done. Somebody's got to do it. You're going to do it. And once it's done, it's done. It hasn't changed anything. It hasn't changed the universe. If you get angry and start throwing things around and getting annoyed because something happened that you didn't want it to happen, then that's when your vibrations drop. That's when you allow yourself to step off the path of awakening. Now, you don't have to be 100%, as I said last time. It's not 100% on the ball all the time. What's important is that when you come off this line, you recognise that you've come off and you get back on again. The amount of times I've still now, even now, have that occasional knee-jerk reaction. It's got nothing to do with the other person, what they've said. It's got nothing to do with what the other person's done. It's something about my past. It's triggered me. Something in my past has made me have a knee-jerk reaction in that way to whatever that person's done. It's not that person's fault. It's my triggering. And I've got to learn to switch that triggering off, just like you have. So you've done your exercises. You've done the exercises to speak to spirit, your soul. You've gone through those. You've said them 9 times. And then after the 9 times, you've said the verse 3 times. People, these are all in the descriptions below. And when you've said it 3 times, you can relax. Spirit knows that you want to connect. Spirit's helping you to connect. And by now, if you've followed the first 2 videos, you're pretty much there, aren't you? You're in your head, you're starting to realise. The important thing is, you know. You just know. You don't hear voices in your head, you just know. You know you're on the right track. The synchronicities, don't forget, look out for the synchronicities. The numbers, maybe you look at the clock when you wake up, it's 444. Or maybe you look at the clock and it's 555 or 1111. Whatever. It's not looking at the clock waiting for it to change, but it's looking at the clock spontaneously or seeing the numbers spontaneously when you weren't expecting to. And then make sure that you recognise the synchronicities. That's what's important, because that's Spirit talking to you. That's Spirit telling you that you're on the right track, you're on the right path. Now, I was struggling a little bit, and I woke up 3 mornings on the trot and I looked at the clock and it said 4:43. And I laid there looking at it, and then it went over to 4:44, and I thought, 444. That's a great sign. That shows me I'm on the right track, etc., etc. But then it suddenly dawned on me that I'd seen 443 switching over to 444. And that was really interesting, because when I actually thought about it, I realised that the 443 was the telling me to let go. To let go, and then 444 would come along. And the penny dropped. Spirit made me realise that I was still trying to control. And I'm terrible for that. It's my personality. I want everybody to be there. If you tell me you're going to meet me at 5 o'clock by the station car park, I'll be there at 5 o'clock, 5 to 5, sometimes 10 to 5, because I don't want to be late. And then you might roll up at 10 past 5, and I'll be cross and angry because you said 5 o'clock. But if I know that's your personality, then I'll go with the flow. If I didn't know that was your personality, I'd know in the future. We're all different, and we just have to relax, and we have to not have that knee-jerk reaction, because it's a trigger in you, not in the person that's caused it. That's what's important to understand. So, I hope you've enjoyed this talk. It's all been pretty simple, because it's about in here for you. I don't want to tell you what to do. I only want to give you advice. I want to give you advice on how you can approach this thing. I want to give you advice on how you can hopefully get there in the end. But you've got to do it. It's got to come from here. It's got to come from here in your heart as well. You've got to want to. You've got to want to talk to your spirit. And when Spirit knows that you want to talk to it, Spirit will talk to you. Once you've prepared yourself, once you've done the shadow work. When the shadow work is completed, whenever that is, that's the wrong expression, I do apologise. When the shadow work is going along very well, then you'll find that Spirit is able to talk to you, and you'll just know things, and then the shadow work can continue. So, understand yourself, do the shadow work. So that's forgive yourself for all the things you did in the past, because you did things that you wouldn't do now, because you know better on your spiritual journey. Forgive others, regardless of whether they want your forgiveness or not. Listen, about them, it's about you. You're releasing the anger and the hurt by forgiving them and moving on. And expectations. Bring down your expectations. Don't rely on your expectations. I mean, have expectations about achieving things, have expectations about goals, have expectations about manifestation, have expectations about a job or whatever, of course. But don't hold on to it so tightly that it spoils your life. Don't hold on to it so tightly that it takes over your life. That's the sort of expectations that we don't want. That's the shadow work. So, please, I shall continue this series, not quite as regularly as I have these three, because now you're well on the way. And in the description below, I will put in the new mantra for you, so that you continue doing the mantra, and you can help yourself reach Spirit easier. So please do like, subscribe and share, and help my channel to grow, because I'm sure you appreciate there's other people out there that would benefit from my knowledge about getting onto your spiritual path and learning how to do shadow work. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you on my next video, because you would have pressed the bell icon, I'm sure. It helps me no end. And thank you again, and goodbye.